Hello everybody, it's Emery48 here, and today is the reason why I didn't post on this channel for about 4 months. I was studying abroad in Ireland, and this is going to be sort of like a podcast where I talk over all the photos that I took in my time abroad, so I'll show you what I got up to in the last 4 months. Hope you enjoy. This was my view at the airport as I got there early to make sure I was there with time to spare. In the second picture, I saw my plane arrive at the terminal, and that definitely brought a wave of excitement to me as it meant the beginning of my adventure was upon me. I didn't take any pictures while landing because the flight got into Dublin at 5 in the morning, and unfortunately did not sleep at all on the flight. I then waited for a little in the airport for the taxi to arrive to bring me to the college. This is my room that I would be staying in for the next 4 months. A 2-bed, 2-bath, and a kitchen-style apartment. The view from my room had a little bit of my school, Griffith College, and Dublin beyond that. This was the first day I really explored the city. I walked around the area near campus in night 1, but did not get very far before wanting some sleep. This is the River Liffey, which runs right through Dublin. It is fairly central in Dublin, so I have been here many times. The first restaurant I went to in Dublin is the Old Storehouse. However, I was still facing a lot of jet lag and couldn't muster more than soup for my appetite. I have been back multiple times since. The first place that I got a guided tour of is Croke Park. This is Ireland's national stadium for the Gaelic games, which are hurling and Gaelic football. Croke Park does not host soccer or rugby. They use Aviva Stadium, which I have also visited later on in my stay in Dublin. Croke Park holds up to 82,300 people, and I have been back multiple times to watch some games. It also has a very nice view of the city from the top of the stadium. Something I found very interesting was that there are not just Gaelic sports teams in Ireland. There are some all over the world, including the US. This shows teams in the northeastern area of the states, including teams closest to me. Galway's jersey for Gaelic sports. This is where my Irish side of the family is from, so I thought it was cool to see what their jersey looked like. Considering I only landed in Dublin on January 28th, I think my January was fairly busy. But now on to my February, which will have a little bit less of me talking over the pictures and more of just describing what the trips were and then letting the pictures speak for themselves. As we had only just arrived in Dublin a couple of days ago, our study abroad program thought it was fitting to give us a guided walking tour of Dublin. This was a great way to get an overview of a city in just a couple of hours. Obviously, there is still much more to discover, but at least a little sense of direction doesn't hurt. We began by walking to St. Patrick's Cathedral and its park. Next we went to what is left of Dublin Castle, which is not much, and finished off at Dublin City Hall, with a few stops in between. This was a big day for Ireland, and a cool thing to be in Ireland for. Ireland versus England in Game 1 of the Six Nations Cup for rugby. This was the pub in which I watched the first half of the game. The place was packed and made for a great atmosphere, especially when the national anthem of Ireland played before the game. I took an adventure to a park in Dublin after some orientation activities. Unfortunately, the park was closed, so I took some pictures from the outside. Now we entered the first week of classes, so I was not doing so much exploring of the city as I was trying to navigate a new campus. Though it is smaller than my one back home, it still took some getting used to. However, because of taking a class about Dublin and one about Ireland, I found myself back at St. Patrick's Cathedral twice in this week. On February 9th, I took a bus trip to some natural sites up in Northern Ireland. For me, the point of this vlog is to show everything that I've seen and taken pictures and videos of on my 4 months. So rather than talking over everything, I'm just going to have some music playing in the background, but in this next segment, I did go to Carrick Bridge, which you could see Scotland from, Giant's Causeway, and Dark Hedges. On a side note, I apparently find water very interesting, and you'll see that throughout the entire video. Enjoy. I went back to Croke Park with some of my roommates and essentially our live-in roommate who lives upstairs to watch some Gaelic sports. Another week passed before going on another adventure. This is mostly because of class. Yes, shockingly enough, when you sign up to do a semester abroad, people actually expect you to go to class. It was very disappointing. Nonetheless, I took a trip to Guinness Factory and looked around for a while. This museum also had a couple of places where you could do more than look, even taste some of the merchandise. Very cool doing that from a rooftop bar. Another week of limited exploring goes by in lieu of another week of classes. Then the weekend rolls around and I go on my first weekend trip. This one doesn't leave the country but does leave Dublin. Off to Galway I was for the weekend. Another time I took a lot of pictures of water. As always, I went through a week of classes again. This time we went on a couple of field trips, as some of my classes take me out of the classroom almost every week. These are a couple of pictures from the walk to the Docklands and a field trip to Christ Church Cathedral and Dublinia. The classes I took during my semester abroad are Media Law and Ethics, which met on Monday and Thursday, Dublin My Global Cities, which met on Tuesday, Macroeconomics, which met on Wednesday, and Irish History and Culture, which met on Fridays. And that completes my February. I got to explore a lot of Ireland in my first month, including my own city of Dublin, and then Galway and parts of Northern Ireland as well. The next month of March, I moved on to exploring bits of Europe. I have 2 trips planned in March, which took me to London and to Naples. The first of those, London, starts right at the beginning of the month, and Naples is closer to the middle of the month. So, here's London. I landed in London at 11 p.m. on March 1st, so there is not a lot to show from this day, except for a little from the walk to the hostel. This walk had one of the coolest parts of the trip in it. I found a street sign that was my last name, completely by accident. We were just walking by it on the way to the hostel. In the first morning of the London trip, we did a walking tour of the area of London that included Buckingham Palace and Trafalgar Square, among other stops. That afternoon, I had tickets to the West Ham United game against Newcastle United. This was an amazing experience, especially because former player Billy Bonds had a part of the stadium named after him during a pre-game ceremony. After the game ended, I got back on the London Underground and met up with my friends to do a pub crawl, which was a lot of fun.
Open the stand.
This day was much less structured walking around London. We visited the London Eye, a couple of bridges, a boat from World War II, and the Art Museum. There was one room in the Art Museum I was most interested in, Van Gogh. Not for the art, but because this was in a Doctor Who episode, and Doctor Who is one of my favorite TV shows. We ended the night by going to a ball pit bar, which was cool to do once. I took it easy for the week of classes as London was a lot of fun but also a bit expensive. However, I wasn't going to just sit around all weekend. I signed up for a bus trip that took me to Kilkenny and Glendalough Lakes. And then came St. Patrick's Day. And it's hard to find a better place to watch the St. Patrick's Day parade than right underneath St. Patrick's Cathedral. With that said, Dublin was very crowded on St. Patrick's Day weekend, which was to be expected, and most of the people that I knew from the area just stayed home that weekend. But I had to go experience it for myself the one time I was there. Here's some clips from the parade. After St. Patrick's Day, I decided to give myself a little break. Not for classes, but just for recovery after St. Patrick's Day weekend. And then in the middle of the week, on Wednesday, I started my trip to Naples. Even though I like all my friends that I've made on this trip, I wanted a little time to myself, so I booked a 4-day trip all by myself right to Naples. Here's some clips. I didn't get up to much more than the flight on this day, as I got to the hostel at 11 p.m. For anyone looking to travel to Naples and have a relaxing time with some nice Italian dinners, I would recommend staying at Giovanni's house in Naples. I had a great time and some great pizza and pasta. March 21st is the first day I was actually in Naples, and I wanted to explore. I went to the National Archaeological Museum in Naples, the Castle of Naples, parks, and anything of interest I could walk to in less than 30 minutes. This day was cut short so I could pick my classes for next semester, but after some pizza from the hostel, it was time for some gelato to end the night. This was a very enjoyable day, an adventure that brought me to Ercolano, another city destroyed by Vesuvius. Then I took a bus up to Vesuvius, something that is amazing, and it took me a little to wrap my head around once I said it to someone else, was I just got back from having lunch on Vesuvius. Definitely a great experience. Then I got on a train to Pompeii. I arrived over 3 hours before it closed, and they were no longer allowing entry into Pompeii. So all the pictures of ruins are from Ercolano. Now, this was not the first thing that didn't go smoothly on the day. When I got to the train station, I got on the wrong train and was luckily helped by someone who knew the train system well. My last full day in Naples, I took a train in the opposite direction from the previous day and went to a city that is now underwater but was also destroyed by Vesuvius. Unfortunately, the water was too rough on the day and the ruins of the city were not visible. Still a good day on a boat and a nice lunch. The final pictures in this set are from the hostel, pizza making station, and view from terrace. Sunday and the final day was just another day of flying. Only a couple of days after returning to Dublin was a qualifying match for the next Euro. This game was between Ireland and Georgia. It was a very cool atmosphere, especially when the protest of throwing tennis balls on the field happened. The next kick after was a goal for Ireland, and was the only goal in the game. Move forward a couple of days to Friday, and I went to the Epic Museum in Dublin with my Friday class. This is the Emigration Museum, which details the spread of Irish people in culture throughout the world. These are a couple of things from the museum I found interesting, especially a kid with a Boston Red Sox jersey playing a Gaelic sport. The following day, my study abroad program organized a bus trip to the cliffs of Moher and Galway. All of the pictures are from the cliffs or another stop on the coast because I had already visited Galway. This was the day of a finals match for hurling and Gaelic football, so I was back at Croke Park for the third time to watch some of the action. The beginning of April, I set my goals towards mostly classwork, and I was waiting for the middle of April, which was when my parents were coming up, to save some time and money for exploring then. My parents and I did a day trip to Blarney Castle. This trip also took us to Cork. In Cork, we also found a document with our family name on it. That was a very cool thing to see. By now, my parents have gone home, and it's time for my second study abroad program field trip. Unfortunately, my phone was not working, so I don't have any pictures from the trip, and this one was pretty cool. I went up to Belfast and got to go into the Titanic Museum, but unfortunately, no pictures from this one. We did find a rainbow when we got back to Dublin. One of my friends was taking a photography class, so on May 2nd we had a couple of photo shoots. I went to Phoenix Park for the first time, and it was amazing weather for it. The last night, for a good amount of the people I was with, consisted of going to the Bernard Shaw for pizza and a group night out. A fun way to end off the semester with some good friends. My last adventure was a bus tour to the Ring of Kerry. It was an amazing day with some great views, and I got to ride in the front of a carriage on a horse and carriage tour of a park. One of the places the bus stopped, I found a shop with our family name on it. It was really cool seeing my family name a couple times throughout Ireland and once in England as well. That is all that I got up to in my time abroad. 4 months away, and on May 28th I came back and have been a normal college student since then. But it's the summer, so that means I'm working to make all my money back from the semester. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like down below. Any comments on anything you saw in the video or anything you'd want me to improve on for the next time I do a travel vlog, which probably won't be for a while at this point. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.